Boom! The royal fairy tale just took a serious hit. For years, the world bought into the image Prince Harry and Meghan Markle sold us the perfect family. 2 adorable kids, a glossy California lifestyle, and a storyline polished to perfection for global audiences. But now, that carefully managed narrative is starting to crack. And the reason a woman most people have never seen or heard of until now. She goes by DL. Her real identity is being kept hidden for safety reasons. But everything else about her is clear. Calm, composed, unfiltered. No disguises, no distorted voice, no hesitation. She says she's finally ready to tell a truth she's been carrying alone for years. A truth that could completely change what we think we know about the Sussex children. According to DL, she is the woman who carried and delivered both Archie and Lilibet. Not a donor, not a behind-the-scenes helper, not a technical surrogate buried in legal language. She says she was the full surrogate, the one who went through the pregnancies, while Meghan appeared publicly posing with a baby bump that DL claims was never hers. DL says she was promised protection, privacy, and fair compensation. She was assured she would remain anonymous and free once everything was done. But she claims those promises were broken. Quietly, she says, "I wasn't treated like a mother. I wasn't even treated like a woman. I was treated like a vessel, a means to an end." That statement hits hard. A vessel used, discarded, erased. But today, DL says she's done being erased. And she didn't come forward empty-handed. She says she has receipts, documents, records, and proof to back up everything she's claiming. This isn't emotional storytelling. This isn't online speculation. If what she says is true, it could rewrite the Sussex story from the ground up. This is where DL says things stop being talk and start being evidence. Pages of it. According to her, these records came from a former insider linked to a Beverly Hills fertility clinic. Someone who finally decided to speak up about what they believed had been buried for far too long. And what's in these files is detailed. We're talking appointment logs, embryo implantation schedules, physician signatures, treatment summaries, progress notes, all dated, all stamped, all lining up with a timeline that sits uncomfortably close to Meghan's publicly announced pregnancies. DL claims the medical process began in late 2018. And that's important because that timing lands right around when Harry and Meghan told the world they were expecting Archie. The overlap is tight, almost too tight to dismiss. She says she was approached just weeks after the Sussex wedding. Quiet meetings, closed doors, no publicity, no paper trail that could be traced easily. DL describes being handed a thick legal contract packed with rules, silence clauses, strict secrecy, and permanent anonymity. According to her, the whole operation felt polished, discreet, and carefully managed by people who knew exactly what they were doing. People she believes had done this before. But the real turning point here isn't just what DL says, it's what she shows. She lays out what she calls a structured medical journey, one that mirrors the royal timeline almost step by step. Dates, procedures, projected due dates, all lining up alongside the story the public was told. This is where the fairy tale, at least according to DL, starts to fracture. And then comes the next wave. If the documents raise eyebrows, this part sends shockwaves. DL produces 2 ultrasound records. Each one includes her patient ID, precise timestamps, and gestational markers. One ultrasound is dated during a 2019 pregnancy, the other during a 2020 pregnancy. Both line up almost perfectly with the reported birth dates of Archie and Lilibet. And she's still not done. Next, DL reveals bank statements, transactions, wire transfers, deposits moving through shell companies registered in obscure jurisdictions. According to insiders who've reviewed the trail, the financial routing points toward managers historically linked to the Sussex inner circle. These aren't random payments. They're structured, deliberate, and timed in a way that raises even more questions. At this point, DL says the evidence speaks for itself. They follow a pattern, one that DL says matches a payout structure that was never fully completed. And then comes what she calls the most explosive document of all, a sealed non-disclosure agreement thick-stamped. and according to DL, presented to her alongside warnings of legal and financial destruction if she ever spoke out. She says the message was clear: stay silent or lose everything. But here's where things shift. DL claims legal advisors later told her parts of that NDA may not actually be enforceable across multiple countries. And that, she says, is the crack in the wall, the opening that finally allowed her to step forward. Still, she saves her biggest move for last. DL says she's ready to undergo a public DNA test. Not private, not behind closed doors. A neutral third party, cameras rolling. Her DNA compared directly to Archie and Lilibet. No lawyers controlling the process. No private labs. No room for manipulation. She says she's not bluffing. She says she's telling the truth and she's ready for the world to see it. And with that, the foundation is set. A woman claiming she carried the children. A hidden medical journey. A paper trail of payments. A contract designed to silence her. And a DNA challenge the Sussexes can't easily ignore. DL's claims cast a long shadow. But the real tremor starts when people begin looking backward. Not at gossip, not at internet theories, but at public moments. We all watched in real time. Moments we once accepted without question. For years, Meghan Markle appeared in perfectly styled outfits, hands gently resting on her stomach, glowing under flashing cameras. The images were everywhere. The crowds adored it. The world watched what looked like a picture-perfect pregnancy unfold. But according to critics revisiting the footage, something else was happening. Something subtle. Something that didn't behave the way a real pregnancy normally does. One moment in particular has become impossible to ignore. A filmed appearance where Meghan bends forward and the baby bump appears to fold inward sharply. Not shift, not slide fold. Almost like it was soft, collapsible, padded. At the time, it was brushed off lighting. Camera angle fabric. Everyone had an explanation. But now, with DL's claims on the table, that clip is no longer just an odd moment. It becomes a clue, a puzzle piece snapping into place. Because if DL carried Archie and Lilibet, then Meghan's bump, according to this narrative, wasn't a pregnancy at all. It was a visual stand-in, a costume meant to sell a story she wasn't physically living. And DL addresses those old moments directly, saying simply, "I told you it wasn't her pregnancy. It couldn't be because it was mine." This is where the grip of the story tightens. Every public moment, every subtle physical inconsistency, every quiet confusion, people shrugged off. All of it now lands under a harsher, unforgiving light. Because while a pregnancy can be hidden, a birth cannot. And yet, no one ever saw Meghan go into labour. No hospital staff waving to cameras. No security convoy racing to the maternity wing. No medical team confirming her arrival or departure. No staged photograph capturing that royal birth the world expected. In royal tradition, births are as public as coronations. William and Kate followed the script 3 times. Hospital steps, glowing smiles, newborns swaddled in their arms, media cameras snapping endlessly. But with Harry and Meghan, that centuries-old tradition didn't just bend, it broke. Instead of a hospital entrance, there was silence. Instead of a joyful photo call, there was Harry awkwardly standing near horse stables, nervously speaking to a camera crew, as if he were announcing a school project, not the birth of a royal heir. Even at the time, something felt off. People questioned why the secrecy was so extreme. Now, with DL's story unfolding, that secrecy takes on a different shape. It doesn't sound like privacy. It sounds like protection. Protection for a birth that, according to whispers from sources close to the situation, happened out of sight because Meghan couldn't appear at a hospital she never actually entered. At this point, the story moves beyond emotion. It becomes logistical, concrete, and impossible to ignore. A birth without witnesses, a hospital visit without records, a royal moment hidden from public view. The question rising quietly from it all is obvious. What exactly were they trying so hard to hide? Up until now, most of the story has centered on Meghan and DL, but the spotlight now shifts to someone often assumed to be a bystander, Prince Harry. According to DL, Harry wasn't confused, misled, or kept in the dark. She claims he was fully present from the start. In her words, He attended medical consultations. He signed clinic documents. He met me in person. He knew my name. And he approved every step of the process. He looked me in the eye, a simple sentence, but one that flips the entire narrative. If Harry wasn't a passive participant, if he was an architect, then the secrecy wasn't just about protecting Meghan. It became a joint project, a coordinated choice between the two of them. And here's where it begins to unravel. Sources close to the Sussex circle say Harry is now struggling under the fallout. Emotionally stretched, snapping at staff, obsessively checking for leaks, cutting ties with old friends and aides, sinking deeper into anxiety. Some whisper that he never intended for things to go this far, that the secrecy was originally meant to protect Meghan's image or health. But the line between privacy and deception blurred too quickly, swallowing them both. And now the prince who once thought he was protecting his family is allegedly drowning in a secret he helped create. While Meghan and Harry stay silent, Buckingham Palace is anything but calm. Sources whisper that behind those towering stone walls, senior advisors, legal experts, and constitutional scholars are quietly gathering. They're reviewing documents, weighing precedents, assessing risks, because DL's claims aren't just shocking. They strike at the very mechanics of the monarchy itself. Royal succession has rules. Heirs must be born of the body. If a surrogate is involved, it must be formally declared, legally documented and above board. No secrets, no hidden births, no private arrangements. Archie and Lilibet were given royal titles and placed in the line of succession positions that depend entirely on the legitimacy of their births. So if DL is telling the truth, questions explode. Were protocols bypassed? Were legal papers quietly adjusted? Did advisors know? Did anyone investigate at the time? And now, what happens to the children's royal status? This isn't just a scandal, it's a potential constitutional crisis. Even Sir Edward Lane, the late Queen's longtime press secretary, a man who almost never speaks publicly, broke his silence, calling the situation unprecedented. His warning: the danger isn't the surrogacy itself. The danger is the deception inside the palace. That sentence hit like thunder. This scandal doesn't just threaten Harry and Meghan, it threatens the one thing the monarchy cannot afford to lose: public trust. And trust, once broken, is almost impossible to rebuild. Every story has a beginning. Every lie has a breaking point. Every secret, especially royal ones, eventually claws its way into the light. We began with DL, a woman stepping out of the shadows, claiming she carried 2 royal children, someone the world was never meant to see. But now, she's here and she isn't backing down. Her documents are organised. Her ultrasounds align perfectly with the royal timeline. Her financial trail points to people who shouldn't be involved. Her NDA raises more questions than it answers. And her DNA challenge hangs in the air like a loaded gun. Meanwhile, Harry is unravelling. Meghan remains silent. Their PR machine is frozen. The palace is dusting off rules written centuries before they were born. Everything is shifting. Everything is cracking. Everything is building toward a confrontation. No one, not the Sussexes, not the palace, not the public, is prepared for. And the most chilling part, this story is not ending. It's just beginning. DL has more interviews lined up. Major networks are circling. Lawyers are preparing for impact. And the truth, whatever it may be, is tightening its grip on everyone involved. If this is the end of the Sussex fairy tale, it won't close with a golden photo op or a smiling magazine cover. It will end in a room full of microphones, lawyers' sworn statements and consequences no one can escape. Once a secret reaches this stage, there is no turning back. The storm isn't coming, it's already here, and the next chapter it's going to hit even harder.